Welcome to more creative films. Welcome everybody to the More Creative Films channel. We have a special guest today. Before we get to him, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, hit that like button, and share this testimony. People need to hear it. So who we have today is a very special person. I'm very honored. He founded by his grace church in Boyle Heights, correct?
Yes.
Boyle Heights, and let me tell you how I know of Seday. Is Seday Sanchez. He's a very well-known individual in the Hispanic community, especially in the churches. We're going to get to his story, but the way I met Seday is before I even knew him, I would see him on YouTube and see him singing. He's a recording artist, but also he was the pastor of that church in Boyle Heights. When I visited his church, it was for a men's conference, and I walked in there, and this is right near White Fence, right across from the cemetery. It's in the heart of what people would call the Devil's Playground, right by where they filmed a lot of the movies, Blood In, Blood Out, and all these movies. He's right in the heart of that. Like I said, you would call it the devil's place, man. I walked in his church, and here's all these men, gangster looking, Pendletons, everything, with their hands up, worshiping the Lord. It was incredible. And not only that, I was there, and I know firsthand, there was gangsters there, former gangsters, there was mobsters, former mobsters. I mean, everything. So this guy has been in that pit, reaching people out of hell. I've seen it firsthand. I know the guy. I know his music. I have his CDs. We'll give you opportunities to get those later. But welcome, Seday, to the show. To me, he's Pastor Seday. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, so it's exciting, man. It's exciting for me to have you on here. It's a blessing. So let's get right to it, man.
Well, it's a trip for me to just be here and just giving my testimony. It's not the first time I've shared my testimony. People have recorded me, but I'm just no good at it. I just say what's in my heart, but sometimes I gotta read because I'm over 60 years old. I know I only look like I'm 50, but I'm really, my next birthday, I'll be 70 years old, and I'm forgetful.
Wow, bro.
So if you
Don't
see me
trip,
looking
bro.
down on something, it's just because I gotta remember what I wrote.
Hey, don't trip, brother. Don't trip, bro. It's all good, man. I appreciate you, and it's cool because this testimony, long after we're gone, it's still going to be on YouTube, saving souls, bro. So
Yeah, it's all about.
let's get to it. Where did you grow up, and what was your road to Boyle Heights, L.A.?
I was born in New Mexico, in Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's in my song. He was born in New Mexico in Santa Fe, but grew up in a barrio in East L.A. And so when I was 4 years old, my dad moved us from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Boyle Heights, California. And I lived here in Boyle Heights, and some of you people from Boyle Heights would recognize these streets. I lived on Winter Street, and then after that, I lived on Fairmont Street, Blanchard. I lived in City Terrace Drive, Folsom Street, Wabash Avenue. I lived in all those areas, and when I was young, about maybe 8 years old, there was a girl that lived in front of us, and she would roller skate for the T-Birds. The T-Bird roller skating. They had roller skating downtown LA. Her name was Lucy Chavarria. And some of you older guys might remember her, but she lived in the front house right in front of us. And so I lived in a time where, people used to play, we used to play cards. With cards, we used to throw them against the wall. We played marbles. We played, there was different seasons, kite season, bike season. There was marble season. And I'm talking about way back, we wait for the rain to come just to float little boats on the curb by the street. My first high was was smoking weed. And you might not know him, but there's an evangelist. His name was Rudy Tovar. When I knew him, he was a dope fiend. He was a heroin addict, but we got high together. I went to Belvedere Junior High School, and this was the Cholo generation. This is where you would start your khakis, and we wore counties, we wore Friscos, khakis, starch them down, and put a little cut on the side. I was about 11, 12, but at that time I used to look at the guys and hang out with these guys, and they were all creased down. And since then I look at this, and it's become my style. I still refer back to that. I guess I can't shake it. And so anyway, where I lived at, Paul, coming from Wabash, Winter, Evergreen, there was a lot of neighborhoods around there. There was Hazard, there was White Fence, Garrity, Juarez, Loyal Maravilla, Locos, La Lopez, and I'd hang out with all these guys. These were my friends. When I was in school, they would more than once they would try to recruit me, to be part of that. But I realized that, if I get into this gang, I can't go to that park. And if I go in this gang, I can't go to that liquor store. And I can't go to that party because it's in that barrio. And so I said, you know what? I'm not going to get in any gang. And that way I can go wherever I want to go. And so I never got jumped into a gang. First time I ever went to jail, I was 17 years old. And I went in for sniffing glue. So till that time, I never went to juvenile hall or anything, because not that I outsmarted the cops. It's just that I was always just in the shadows, and just being by myself or with other guys, just always, running and hiding. So till I was 17 years old, that's the first time I went to jail, and it was a place called Georgia Street. And not too many people know about it, but it's called Georgia Street, and this place was in downtown L.A. This was right after the riots, the Watts riots in 1966. So in 66 and 67, there was a lot of racial tension in the jails and in the streets. After this time, I graduated to sniffing glue, from sniffing glue to drinking beer, taking reds. I remember Lily F40s, and they would sell these LSD, mescaline. I became a straight out dope fiend, from buying a PCP to selling PCP. I was a thief, a liar, a cheater. I got married the first time. I've been married twice. The first time I got married, I was 18 years old. And I don't consider myself a deadbeat dad. I consider myself a dad that should have been beat to death, because I was no good to my wife. I was no good to my kids. I abandoned my kids. I exchanged them for the drugs that I took. One thing about my kids, excuse me, all my kids have suffered. The ones that suffered when I was living for the devil, they suffered because I wasn't there. My daughter, Lisa, she got pregnant at 14 because I wasn't there. My son, Michael, went to prison because I wasn't there for them. Then I got saved. When I got saved, my other kids suffered. They suffered because I was going to conferences. I was going to meetings. I was running the church. So they kind of had to sacrifice their dad. So all my kids have suffered. And, what you see is what you get, kids. I love you. My kids know the Lord. They're one of them that was out in the streets, Vincent. Vincent was out there for so long, but he came to the Lord. My son's out of prison. My daughter became one of the best moms and one of the best grandmothers. And so what the devil meant for evil, God turned it around for the good, and he always does. In 1970, excuse me, Paul.
Can I ask you something really quick?
Yes, sir.
I was at a conference, or it was an award show, and do you remember Farrah Fawcett?
Yeah, the
Yeah, the
blonde
blonde Farrah
actress.
Fawcett. Well, she had passed away already, and I was talking to Ryan O'Neal. Remember the actor Ryan O'Neal?
Yeah.
And he was telling me that he grew up a lot of times near White Fence area. Okay. And he was telling me that his mom always told him, stay away from that area. How was it? Like, so many movies are made in that area. I mean, how was it growing up right there, bro? Like, was it dangerous, or, for.
Well, every neighborhood, every neighborhood was bad. None of them were good. And you couldn't just walk into a house party or into a neighborhood without expecting to get into something. And you always expected, Paul, that whatever house party you went to, something was going to jump off. There was always going to be something happening. So not just White Fence. White Fence was made a name for himself, but all the other barrios. I remember walking down a street in on Gage Avenue, and the guys from Juarez were up on the hill, and one of the guys saw me walking down, and he says, "Hey, there's that Vato Seday. Let's go hit him up. Let's go see what he's all about." While he was getting up to get a few guys to go after me, another homeboy that I knew got in the way, and he said, "Hey, Seday's my home. I know Seday. He's a good dude, and you're gonna have to go through me." And so this takes me back to that being neutral part where he backed me up. But all these neighborhoods, whatever parties they were having, deaths would happen, overdoses would happen, whatever happened. I was part of that neighborhood. I was part of that. One time I was on Wabash Playground. I was hanging out, getting high with the guys from White Fence. As we're getting loaded, about 2 days later, I was in Garrity Loma, getting high up by Woolwine. We were getting loaded up in the hills. And as we're getting loaded, one of the guys says, "Hey, aren't you from White Fence?" I said, "No, I'm not from the fence." And he says, "Yeah, I seen you over there on Wabash." I said, "But I'm not from the fence." And he says, "You're gonna rank out on your barrio?" I said, "I'm not from a barrio." And then one of the guys jumped in and he says, "Hey, if something happens right here while we're in the hill, if something takes off, Siday's gonna jump in, you know?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm right here, homie. I'm smoking your dope. I'm right here with you, Uncles. Something comes down, I got your back." So that was just the way it was. Something's gonna happen. But when you're in it, how can I say this? When you're in it, you don't think about it. When you're in the mix, you don't think about the mix. Before I met Christ, I was so far into darkness, I didn't know I was in darkness. I was so much into the mix that you're not even aware of it. You know what I'm talking about? It's hard to explain, but you don't think about the fear. You don't think about the circumstance of the violence. You're not thinking of that because you're part of it without even giving it a second thought. Did I
Incredible.
answer your question?
Incredible.
Do you know, I always had a knife with me. I always had a knife with me, just in case. But I just knew that was part of the deal, part of the plan. Growing up in Boyle Heights,
It's
I like to.
incredible. It's incredible, like having been to the church, and like how God used that neutrality later on. We're gonna get there, but how you go in your church and there's people from all kinds of audios there. Like God
Right.
had even prepared the way for that, that you weren't so isolated into one neighborhood that, you know what I mean? It's kind of cool.
Well, you know that that is a tool. That is a tool, a groundbreaking. It's a tool. You can buy this tool. It's something that you have that God was using in my life. He was using that. He was instilling that in me. so that when I was in Tacoma, and we'll get to that in a little bit, when I was in Tacoma and I would go right into the streets, the people in the church would say, check out the pastor. He just goes right up to these guys. Check out the pastor. He just walking right into the liquor store, surrounded by black guys on the street and everything. I would just go right in there and just, hey, how's it going? What's happening, homie? And I would just talk to them, just down to earth, and they couldn't understand it. They couldn't understand where I got the boldness. The boldness didn't really come as much from the Lord as it came from the streets. God had instilled that into me. Paul, God has already brought that to me. And so once I did meet the Lord, oh man, there we go. Now I got a double portion. I'm able to go anywhere because I got the freedom of Christ. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But it was something that you couldn't buy. It's something that it's just there. Let me tell you something. When I in my job, I'm a security. I work security for the movies,
Right.
and I was working for a SWAT, and we were in an area called Cam, right there in Boyle Heights, an area called Cam, and they usually tax the people that are going to show a production there. They usually tax them. But anyway, besides all that, there was five, 4 or 5 gangsters walking up in the middle of the street, and they're going to shoot a scene around the corner. As they're walking up, I'm talking to a couple of truck drivers. I'm talking to one of the guys, he works with the food services. And as we're talking, one of the guys comes from what the guys that one of the gangsters walks away and he comes up to me. He says, "Hey, what's up, G? How's it going, G?" And he shakes my hand. While he's shaking my hand, Paul, the other ones come to where I'm at and they all kind of surround me and they're all shaking my hand. And I'm just shaking their hand. And then they walk away. When they walk away, the rest of the guys that are there, that from the crew, they said, "What was that all about? See, Dave, what was that all about?" And I said, "Oh, they're just showing respect." And they said, "What do you mean? What are we? Chopped liver?" And I said, "You're not chopped liver. It's not that they don't respect you, but they don't know you." And he said, "Did you know them?" I said, "No, I don't know them, and I don't have to know them. They're giving me respect because they know by looking at me that I made it. I got a legitimate job, but they know I've been there. If that makes any sense, it
Oh
just
yeah.
something that was just there, and they just tripped out, and I said, "Wow, that's a trip."
That's
And
beautiful.
they took notice of that,
Yeah.
and I
That's
felt good
awesome.
about it.
Yeah. I know I'm seeing you in pictures with movie stars and everything, man. That's a trip, bro. But
That's where
yeah,
that comes
please
from.
continue the story, man. Please continue your story. We love it.
All right, check this out. I was always in 1970. There was the Vietnam War broke out, 66, 67, 68. They were having walkouts, school walkouts. About 60, I was in Roosevelt in 69, and they would keep us locked up in the schools. But the Brown Beret came, Brown Beret, uh, Viva la Raza, and all that was coming up in Boyle Heights, L.A. area. And so they would come to the schools and they would open the gates, or we would break the gates down and come out, and we'd have walkouts all over the streets. So when the Vietnam War was, you know, in its main course taking place, they had a moratorium march, and you probably heard about it in 1970. It was down Whittier Boulevard. It was a moratorium, an anti-Vietnam War moratorium march, right down Whittier Boulevard. And like I said, I slept under bushes. I would check cars if the car door opened. That was my my resting spot for the night. And one day I was asleep under some bushes by a church on the Atlantic Boulevard. It was St. Alphonsus Church. I don't know how I got there. As a matter of fact, sometimes my wife would just drop me off and she would say, "Where can I take you? Where you gonna stay at? What place?" And I said, "Just drop me off right here by that bush right there. See that bush right there? I'll just climb under there." While I was under that bush in 1970 by that church, and all of a sudden I heard a bunch of noise. I heard a bunch of people, heard a bunch of sirens and different things going on. So I got up from the bush and I walked to the street on Atlantic Boulevard. And as I'm looking, there's hundreds and hundreds of people walking in the middle of the street. I said, where are all these people going? Then I started noticing it's all raza, dope fiends, drug addicts, gangsters, and they're walking in the middle of the street. I've never seen this. I was involved in the walkouts, but I never seen that many. I'm talking about, if you Google it, they didn't have Google in those days. You Google it, there's thousands on that street. And as they were going, I was just looking at it. I just woke up. All of a sudden it hit me. Bam. It wasn't the Holy Ghost, it was the Holy Smoke. And I could smell the marijuana. I could smell the weed. I could smell it in the air. And I said, what the heck is going on? And all of a sudden I said, this is my cue. This is where I joined the party. So I made my way into the crowd, started getting high. They started passing me some weed. All of a sudden this guy's opening some beer and passing, it's the 6-packs. He's giving me a beer and I'm just going down the street and here I go. Now, what I was tripping out on was that in every street corner, there was about five or six police car units. And the sheriffs were on the street corner, but we're smoking weed and drinking beer and just like blowing it in their face. And there wasn't a thing they could do about it. And I was saying, I've never been in something like that. It was kind of like if I was, in Dolphin heaven, just in the middle of Atlantic Boulevard. And as we're going down the street, I noticed something else that really tripped me out. I started looking at, it was a hot August day, and I started noticing the tattoos, the guys, the plaquiazos on their back, Pacoima. That one jumped out at me. I said, Pacoima? This is Boyle Heights. This is East Los. Pacoima. Then I said, San Fernando. I seen another one, San Diego, Culver City, on the back of his arm, Culver City. I said, what are all these neighborhoods doing right here in Boyle Heights, in East L.A.? What are all these neighborhoods doing in the middle of the street, walking? Okay, so as I'm looking at all these people walking down the street, we turned on Atlantic. And when we turned on Atlantic, way over there by close to the bridge, you'll see that Whittier Boulevard sign, but there was a bridge right there by Eastern. And as we're turning on Atlantic, I started seeing and hearing like a wave of glass breaking. The glass was shattering. And then that wave started getting closer. Now it's going to Kern Avenue. Then it's hitting McBride. Then it's hitting Federally. It's getting closer and the windows are breaking. All of a sudden smoke's coming out and it's getting closer and closer. And it came right by that bar where they killed Richard Salazar. Was his name Richard Salazar? From Salazar Park. But anyway, he was a news reporter and he was by that bar. But when it got to me on Atlantic, by that time, it was just like a wave of breaking glass, shattering glass, and then fires started. And that's when the riot broke out in East LA. So I just, when in Rome, do like the Romans. So I got me a big old stick and started hitting a window and it broke. But the jewelry that was there, the TVs, they couldn't fit through the bars. So I tried to get a ring, but somebody else got the ring, and we were just going crazy trying to get stuff from the stores and everything. And so after that pass from Atlantic, it just went, and the cops started coming, and they were gonna try and stop it, but there were just too many of us, so they allowed it to continue. So we keep marching past the cemetery, Calvary Cemetery, all the way to Laguna Park. At that time, it was called Laguna Park, and that's where we were going to rally at. But as soon as we all got there and they had us all in one place, they surrounded the park and just came at us. It was just like a free-for-all. The police, the sheriffs, the people, and it just getting out of there was a thing of itself. And so I made it out. A billy club got me on the side of the face, but they weren't letting anybody through unless they were gonna give you one, hit you, or try and stop you. But no, nobody was getting arrested as much as getting beat down. That's what they wanted. They wanted the revenge. And anyway, that reporter got shot and killed at the bar over there on Whittier, and so that's why they renamed that park from Laguna to Salazar Park that day. So anyway, from that riot, when it broke out, a year later, I got drafted for that Vietnam War. And they asked me, when you get drafted, they ask you, where do you want to be placed? Where do you want to go do your time? I call it doing time because I got drafted. I didn't enlist. And so I put in for Vietnam. And in those days, people were trying to avoid the draft and avoid going to war, but I was a dope fiend. I wanted to be where my homies are, and I wanted to be where the drugs are at. So when I put in for it, they took me to see the psychiatrist. He said, this guy's got to be nuts to request Vietnam. So when they asked me, why did you want to go to Vietnam? And I told them, you know what? I heard they have good opium there, and they have good weed there, and you could get it. You could walk and just pull it off the bushes, but that was just, Hollywood. But anyway, that's the way I thought it was. And so they said, no, you're not crazy. We're going to keep you in the army. So they sent me to Germany. I ended up doing my time in Germany. And so I stood there in Germany. I said that my wife used to drop me off by the bushes and stuff. That wasn't my first wife. That was Corrine. This is the one I was married to.
Sure.
But, we weren't married yet. Amen. So I stayed on drugs. It was a merry-go-round, in the service, out of the service, going to the streets, going to jail, then streets and jail. And while other guys were in the holding tank, they were saying, man, I hope I get out. Man, I hope I go to the streets. While they're saying that, I'm saying, I hope I go to prison this time. I hope they give me state time. I was tired of Biscaloo. I was tired of the county jail. I was tired of Wayside. I wanted to go if I'm going to do time, send me somewhere, so I could do some good time, And I ended up going back to Wayside again, And, Paul, one time when I was in court, on my way back to jail again, my sisters came. See, my mom died when I was 7 years old. And one of the memories I have of my mom, it was right before Mother's Day. I don't know if you remember those little hands that you put on a round piece of clay.
Yeah, yeah.
Handprint. Well, I was making one of those for Mother's Day. And at that time, my mom had breast cancer. And she was in the General Hospital on Marengo Street in Los Angeles. And so she passed right before Mother's Day. When I was 7 years old, she died of breast cancer. So I had that round thing with the hand thing. So, I remember telling my teacher, what do I do with this? Who do I give this to now? Because my mom died. She said, oh, give it to one of your sisters. Give it to your oldest sister. So I remember going and, that's why I gave it to my sister. But I said that to say this. The 4 sisters that I had, they were the ones that raised me. My oldest sisters were married. My other sister was a teenager. My other sister was a teenager. So I kind of grew up doing what I want to do. That's what kind of just pushed me to the streets because I didn't have a mom to be right there raising me. I didn't have a dad taking care of me because he was working. So when I was there in the courthouse, my 4 sisters, my 4 moms were on the bench behind me, and they started reading off my case: attempted murder, attempted kidnapping, attempted assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated assault, attempted transportation, grand theft auto, and they're reading off my rap sheet. And my sisters, they got to see me in the holding tank before I went to the county, and they were sitting there and they're looking at me, and through the phone they're saying, "What happened to you? See, what? This isn't the way you were raised. what took place that you're facing all these charges. We can't believe. If we weren't here, we wouldn't believe that this was you. And so, I was an alcoholic, drug addict, and it didn't matter to me. I just said, I don't know. So I remember my sister saying, I'm glad our mom is dead so that she wouldn't see what became of your life. And I remember when she told me that, I just said, man, she's got a good point. I'm glad my mom isn't here to see what happened to me. So anyway, one day, one day I came out, and went right back to it. You know how we do it. We even tell the judge, never again. Judge, give me another chance. But we go back. I was stuck on stupid. I could not let it go. I even told the judge one time, he says, what? You keep coming before me, and it's always the same charge, the same charge. What's wrong with you? You and PCP, what is it? And I said, could I be honest? And he said, sure. I would like to hear your reasoning. I said, I just love angel dust. I just, that was the fact. I love angel dust. And the whole courtroom started just cracking up.
Oh man.
I remember one time, Paul, I went to a outpatient mental health clinic, outpatient from the courts. We're sitting in a circle, and everybody's talking about why they're going to see the psychiatrist. And I told him, well, I'm court committed. I don't have to be here. I said, I don't have to be here. I'm here because the court sent me. That was my reasoning. But they started sharing why they were there. So I said, well, I'm here because I'm addicted to angel dust, to PCP. So they started asking, isn't that an elephant tranquilizer? Isn't that the drug they used to tranquilize the elephants and stuff? And I go, yeah, that's what I hear. He said, oh man, I'll bet you're happy. I'll bet you're glad that you're sober now and you don't have nothing to do with that. I'm glad. I bet you're so glad to overcome that part of your life. So I looked at the counselor or the doctor, whatever he was, and I said, is this, nobody's going to hear about this? Is this, going to stay here within these walls? And he says, yeah, this, what stays, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So he said, no, nobody else will know. And I said, well, and I reached in my sock and I pulled out a joint, a pinner. I said, when I leave here, before I catch that free bus, before I catch a free bus over there and go back to my sister's in Val Gardens, I'm going to smoke this one as soon as I walk out of this. That's how messed up I was. That's how lost I was. And I stayed on that merry-go-round for such a long time. One day, this is how I met my wife, Corinne. One day I went to a dance and I saw her walking through the door. You know how they say that you're on cloud nine, and the butterflies start flying and the birds start making songs and all this. Man, when I seen her, I just said, baby doll, where have you been all my life? And I just seen her, and man, it was love at first sight. I just fell in love. I don't know if you know that feeling, Paul.
Oh yeah.
But man, I just felt that, and I was happened to be taking the invites for the dance. I said, baby doll, you don't need an invite, just come on in. And so she came in, and I said, this is what I needed. I needed someone that's gonna take my mind off drugs, take my eyes off drugs, and she's gonna help me get straight. I'm gonna be able to hold down a job. This is what I needed. My kids couldn't help me. The army didn't help me. Nothing worked. The rehab, the psychiatrist didn't work. This is what I need. So I thought, but I kept on the drugs. Paul was stronger than that. She loved me with all of her love that she had, all the strength, but I still love drugs even more than my wife Corinne, more than anything. I lived in the streets, going from one bush to another, from one car, I was, I used to steal cars just to take them. In those days, you had a key that fit a Chevy, fit a Dodge, fit a Chrysler, a Buick, the same type of key, General Motors key. I had a ring of keys on a hanger. I had around 80 keys on there. So it didn't matter where I went. I had that key ring with me, and that would get me a car. I would I sell cars, Can I be honest? One time I stole a car over there in City of Commerce. The guy just got off to mail a letter. He got off his car just to mail a letter. And I seen the smoke coming out. It was early in the morning, and I don't know where I was coming from. But I seen the smoke. I said, hey, if I can get there before he finishes mailing that letter, I got me a car for the day. And I just jumped in the car and took off.
Oh man.
Went to the I went to the neighborhood, right? And I got what I wanted. I got in those days, they were 8-track tapes. 8-track tapes. I don't even know you heard of those.
Yeah.
What I wanted, I tell the neighborhood, hey, you know what? If you want a car, there's a car park right there on Blades Avenue. You could get it. So then after the car was there for a day, a week, 2 weeks, I seen that they're starting to take the tires. They took the steering wheel. They're taking more and more of the car. I said, man, they still haven't taken this car out of the neighborhood. All of a sudden, it happened to be Ash Wednesday, Paul. It was an Ash Wednesday, and I'm staggering down the street. I don't know what I was high on, but I noticed the crosses. People walking down the street have a little cross on their forehead. For some reason, see, I've been a Catholic. I made my first Holy Communion. I made my confirmation. I've gotten thousands of crosses on my forehead in my time, And I'm looking at all these crosses. I start thinking about God. I said, man. And it just so happened that I was right where that car was in the neighborhood when I was seeing these people with the crosses. I said, man, I should call. I had the phone number because me and my niece Evelyn were going to pull a dolphin move and try and get money for that car. So I had the number. So I called up the people that owned the car. When I called up, this little old lady answers, the grandmother. Ay, mijo, qué bueno. She was so happy. Ay, you're so good. God is so good that you would make this call. Oh, thank you, Jesus. You're an angel. You must be sent from heaven. She's thinking that I'm the one. She doesn't know that I'm the one that took the car. She's just thinking I'm somebody that's seen the car, and I'm just making this phone call. I
Right.
said, yeah, I see your car parked. And I said, oh, may God bless you. You are favored in God's sight. And oh man, I'm feeling worse. Every word she's saying is killing me. And I said, just come get the car. It's right here. And oh, may God bless you, and this and that. Another thing. Speaking of cars, every time I took a car, and you know, I think I stopped counting at 50, 50. I would count how many cars I would take. So I think I stopped around 50, but there was still more after that. But the cars that I took, they always had a Bible in them. They had a Bible. I would find a Bible in the car. And, I remember coming home to my sister's house, and I would always leave the Bibles on the coffee table every time so my nieces would come home. They say, oh, see, they must have stolen another car because there's another Bible on the coffee table. So I was taking cars from Christians, not even knowing it.
Wow.
One time, me and Corrine, she was going to ditch from school, and as I was going to meet her behind the Beehive right there on Whittier Boulevard, and we are going to go up to Crystal Lake in Azusa, and she had her car, but on the way to the Beehive, there was a guy that had the car running. He was started it, and it was warming up. So I jumped. I said, why not? I'll just take that car. So I jumped in that car, and I met her at the Beehive, and we went to Crystal Lake. When we're at Crystal Lake, I started taking things out of the glove compartment. I started opening the trunk. You want this? You want this? And I'm giving her stuff. She says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm checking out to see what's good and what's not. And she says, you mean this isn't your car? I said, oh, no, this ain't my car. She said, where'd you get this car? She said, she asked me, whose car is it? And I said, I don't know. I just got it on the way to the beehive, to the bar, where you're meeting me at. And she said, I'm in a stolen car? And I go, yeah. And she said, I'm not going with you in a stolen car. I'm not going to get caught. And I kind of just told her, what's a long ways down the hill, from Crystal Lake. I said, what choice do you have? So here we go. She was nervous and she just wanted out of that car, but where can she go? We drove all the way home and all the way down the hill, and that was just me. I didn't care. I didn't care. Things didn't matter to me. But anyway, let me see where I'm at. So I lived in the streets, and the cars that I checked, if they were unlocked, that was my car for the day. And even I got so bad that even Corinne cut me loose. Even Corinne, you don't care about nothing. You don't care about me. You don't care about nothing. So that was it. And the way I lived, Paul, I kind of counted like a death in slow motion. I was killing myself, but it was in slow motion, like doing time, doing a life sentence, one year at a time. You know what I mean? So I was always just into my drugs. One day I was in Wayside. Let me take a drink real quick.
Sure.
One day I'm sitting in Wayside in Lower Compound. You been there, Paul?
No, OC, only OC.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't hang around. Those were the good guys over there.
That's right.
Those were the good part of town.
Right on.
Anyway, I'm right there sitting in Wayside. God, he told Peter, I'm going to make you a fisher of men. But for God to fish for men, he needs to have the right bait. So he had the right bait for Seday. He was, when I'm looking in the compound, there was some girls pushing amplifiers to the chapel. And they're pushing these amplifiers. And I'm right there. And all the guys are right there just checking it out. And all of a sudden I said, I'm going to church tonight. I don't know about you guys. I'm not going to wait pile. I'm gonna be in church after dinner. I'm gonna go to the chapel. So he said, what are you gonna go in there for? And I said, didn't you see those chicks walking up there? And I said, all right. So I'm in the chapel. I went there for another reason. I didn't go to hear the word. I didn't go to hear the music, but I just went for the lust of the eyes. And so when I'm in there, all of a sudden, this guy starts speaking, start talking about God. I'm talking about how the Lord can change your life, how old things pass away. Behold, all things become new. And he starts telling this story about how God loves the vato loco, how God loves the dope fiend and the gangster, and God this and God that, and Jesus can do this. This guy had more tattoos than I had. This guy had been to prison. He'd been to Folsom. He'd been to Soledad. He had done time. He had tattoos on his neck. In those days, vatos didn't have tattoos on their neck, and he was all tacked down. So as I'm listening and looking at this dude, I'm getting a Holy Ghost anger inside of me. I'm getting upset. Forget about what I went there for. All of a sudden, I got an agenda. I gotta tell this vato, hey, you know what? Don't be doing that. Don't be coming disrespecting God and talking about God, because you're just like me. That's it hit me like a ton of bricks. He has no right to be talking about God. So now I'm waiting, and I'm steaming, I'm burning up, because he kept on talking about God, opening his Bible and talking about God. So finally, when it was over and everybody's leaving the chapel, I waited, and I was just gonna cold cop him. That's how mad I was. Just sucker punch him. I was gonna just get him. I was so mad.